99% of Jeep owners never use these 10 hidden functions, not because they're complicated, but because they're buried in the vehicle's logic, not the manual. Once you know them, your Jeep becomes easier to live with, more reliable, and way less stressful. Let's start with the first hidden function. Number 1. Selec-Speed control crawls by itself while you just steer. Selec-Speed control feels almost spooky the first time because your Jeep can inch forward while your feet stay off the pedals. You switch into 4WD low, you press the button, and the computer takes over gas and brakes while you only steer. Have you ever looked down at your shoes like, wait, why am I moving right now? Jeep even calls it a secret off-road weapon in the manual, and the reason shows up the moment the trail gets bumpy. When your foot bounces on the pedal over rocks and ruts, one sharp tap can spin a tire, bang a skid plate, or shove the rig sideways. Selec-Speed smooths that out using engine torque control and brake pressure control, keeping the crawl speed steady even when the ground feels like stairs. On newer models, you can nudge the crawl speed up or down with buttons, and it honestly feels like crawl cruise control for slow terrain. That means fewer wild revs on climbs, less brake heat, and fewer impacts that break parts. A tow off the trail can cost more than new tires, so why ignore a feature that can save you hundreds? And what happens when the trail points downhill and your brain starts panicking? Number 2. Hill descent control stops a bad hill from owning you. Hill descent control, or HDC, uses ABS and traction systems to pulse brakes on each wheel separately, so the Jeep holds a super slow crawl down steep hills. Standing at the top and staring down can flip your brain into panic, because loose dirt plus the wrong brake move can turn your Jeep into a sled. Have you felt that moment where you think, if I touch the brakes wrong, I slide? Here's what HDC changes: you turn it on, pick a low gear, then take your feet off the pedals. The Jeep basically walks itself down and you focus on steering around the worst rocks. Your foot does not shake, your brakes do not cook as fast, and your stress drops fast. That is the part people miss. HDC never tires, even on a long drop. This sounds fake until you feel it. The ABS pulses can build small piles of loose stuff in front of the tires, and those little piles can help control the descent and keep grip. Tour guides love HDC because it calms nervous guests, and they describe it like the Jeep is using its brain. If the Jeep can manage a scary downhill, can it also change its whole behavior for snow, sand, and rocks with one dial? Number 3. Selec-Terrain makes your Jeep act like a different truck. That dial labeled Auto Snow Sand / Mud and Rock is not decoration, because Selec-Terrain tweaks throttle response, shift points, traction control, and how power splits between wheels. Most people ignore it until the weather gets ugly, then they wonder why the Jeep feels jumpy or slippery. So why wait until you are already nervous to touch the one control built for that moment? Flip to snow mode and the Jeep softens power and balances torque so you do not spin out on ice. It feels calmer, like the Jeep stops lunging and starts behaving. Switch to sand / mud mode and it lets wheels spin a bit more and holds gears to keep momentum, which helps you avoid bogging down in soft stuff. Dealer and Jeep guides describe the modes the same way: auto for everyday, snow for slippery, sand / mud for soft ground, and rock with 4 low for slow crawling. Pick the wrong mode and you risk losing grip, digging in, or stressing the drivetrain. Pick the right one and the Jeep can feel like it reads the trail ahead. Less tire spin also means less tread wear and fewer winch calls, so it can save money without drama. If this dial is like choosing the right shoes, what is the easiest tire move that makes every mode work better? Number 4. Airing down tires changes everything before the trail. One overland group measured that lowering tire pressure can make the contact patch up to 80% longer and 20% wider, and that is huge for something that takes minutes. You might see someone kneel down and let air out before a trail ride, and it looks odd, but it is one of the biggest free upgrades in off-roading. More rubber on the ground means more grip, so why do so many people skip it? Basic physics points in the same direction. As inflation pressure goes up, contact area goes down, and as pressure drops, the footprint grows. Researchers describe this relationship in tire contact studies too. Lower pressure generally increases contact patch size. On sand, snow, or mud, that wider patch helps the Jeep float instead of digging and getting stuck. Your ride also feels smoother because the tire absorbs bumps instead of bouncing your body and suspension. Timing matters because you want full highway pressure for cooler running and longer tire life. Then you air down on the trail, then air back up before road driving again. Some people never do it because they worry about popping a bead, or they never bought a small compressor, even though a cheap compressor costs less than a single tow. If air is a tool you can adjust, what factory setting trades speed for strength and protects your drivetrain? If you are finding this video helpful, remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on a single Jeep video. Number 5. 4 low quietly saves your engine, gears, and nerves. 4 low is the lever or knob many Jeep owners have and never use, even though Jeep's off-road guide explains low range as a low gear ratio that turns wheels slower and gives more torque at low speed. That is perfect for steep climbs, technical crawling, or getting unstuck. If low range exists for control, why do people keep trying to solve slow problems with speed? In plain English, the Jeep trades speed for strength. Your engine spins more times to move the wheels once, which gives more torque and finer control, like shifting a bike into low gear for a tough hill. High range with too much gas can overheat the transmission and strain parts, but 4 low lets the Jeep climb slowly, stay cooler, and stay in control. Some models let you use manual mode to lock into a lower gear for more engine braking, which helps on downhill so you ride the brakes less. Features like Selec-Speed and HDC work best with 4 low and a low gear set, so you can stack systems for safety. Heat kills transmission fluid, and a bad gear choice can mean cooked ATF, warped brakes, or broken U-joints. If one smart shift can stop a chain of repairs, what happens when one wheel lifts, spins, and the Jeep refuses to move? Number 6. Brake-based traction control. Grabs one wheel so you move? That stuck feeling happens when one tire's in the air spinning and the Jeep goes nowhere, and it feels unfair because you can hear power but you cannot use it. In the old days, you needed locking differentials. Now many Jeeps use traction control to fake a locker using the brakes. When a sensor sees one wheel spinning faster than the rest, the computer taps the brake on that wheel. That brake tap sends more torque to the tire with grip, and you feel a short pause, then the Jeep pulls forward. It is almost like the Jeep says, "Stop wasting power on the spinning wheel." Off-road, that means less digging and less need to hammer the throttle. On pavement, it can help with stable launches on wet or loose surfaces. The catch is how you drive with it. Steady gas helps, wild jabs fight the system, so you let the Jeep do the tiny corrections. Stellantis has explained that depending on mode and conditions, traction control can use brake intervention plus engine torque control to manage wheel spin. If the Jeep can control wheel slip like that, what about the system that controls the entire vehicle when it starts to slide? And why do people switch it off without thinking? Number 7. That car with squiggles light is a lifesaver electronic stability control. Cuts fatal single vehicle crash risk by about half, and it cuts fatal single vehicle rollovers by about 75% for SUVs based on studies summarized by IIHS. That is a massive safety gain for one system, yet most drivers treat the dash icon like an annoying light. If the numbers are that big, why would anyone turn it off on the road? That little icon with a car and squiggly lines is electronic stability control, or ESC. It constantly checks how you steer, your speed, and how the Jeep is actually moving. If it senses you are starting to spin or push wide in a turn, ESC cuts engine power and taps brakes on the right wheels to bring you back in line. It acts faster than most people can react, which is the whole reason it works. Some drivers hate when ESC cuts power, so they switch it off to feel free, and that removes the system designed to keep the whole rig in check. Safety agencies also estimate big rollover prevention potential when ESC is installed widely, especially for SUVs. Treat ESC like a seatbelt, keep it on for road driving, and only relax it off-road when you truly know what you are doing. ESC helps with slides, but what about the even scarier moment when the vehicle starts to tip? Number 8. Roll stability logic fights the nightmare rollover. Rollovers scare even pros, and SUVs and lifted Jeeps sit higher, so the wrong angle can tip you fast when a tire catches. Some ESC systems include roll stability logic, which adds special code that watches body roll and how fast the Jeep is spinning, called yaw. If the computer sees a move that often leads to a tip over, it hits brakes hard and cuts power instantly. That matters because humans react slower than computers. You cannot always feel the danger until it is already building, but the system looks for patterns that usually end badly. Picture swerving to avoid a truck or taking a ramp too fast. Those are the moments where staying upright is everything. Roll stability logic is meant to act before the lean becomes a flip. With roll stability features, those ESC safety gains get even bigger. Engineers do not use emotional words much, but even they call the effect of ESC dramatic in reports, and when a dry report says that, it should get your attention. The rule stays the same: do not switch ESC off on road. If the Jeep safety brain is doing all that, what about the factory buttons people ignore because they sound like they are only for hardcore off-roaders? Number 9. Front and rear axle lock turns 2 wheels into one team. Here's the weird truth: when traction disappears, the Jeep often sends power to the wheel that is slipping. That is why you see one tire spinning like crazy while the other sits still, and it feels like the Jeep is helping the wrong side. If your Jeep has axle locks, you can shut that problem down. When the front, rear, or both axles are locked, both wheels on that axle turn together instead of arguing. That changes your driving because you can go slower and smoother instead of punching the throttle and praying. It is especially helpful on crossed-up ruts where one wheel goes light because the locked axle keeps both wheels working as a pair. Jeep also shows you what is happening. The Wrangler manual describes indicator lights that tell you when the front, rear, or both axles have been locked, plus a separate warning if there is an axle locker fault. That clarity matters because it tells you what the Jeep is actually doing. Less wheel spin also means less digging and less shock load, which can mean fewer broken parts. If axle locks feel like a cheat code for traction, what is the other factory trick that helps keep tires planted by letting the front end flex? Number 10. Sway bar disconnect gives you grip by letting the front end flex. A sway bar helps your Jeep feel stable on-road by resisting body roll, but off-road that same stability can turn into a problem because it can limit suspension movement and lift a tire off the ground. If your Jeep is equipped, the electronic sway bar disconnect lets the front suspension articulate more, helping keep tires planted on uneven terrain instead of teetering. That means more grip, because a tire in the air cannot help you move. Jeep quietly tells you when it is active. The Wrangler manual describes a sway bar indicator light that illuminates when the front sway bar is disconnected. Many owners have seen the light and still miss what it really changes, because it does not scream for attention, it just sits there like a hint. This feature can feel boring until you see the difference because the Jeep can stop hopping and start walking over uneven ground. Combine it with airing down, four-low, traction control, and the safety systems, and the Jeep often feels calmer and easier to place. The whole goal is less panic, less damage, and fewer moments where you ask, why is my Jeep doing that? So here's the real question. Which of these factory systems have you been ignoring because they felt only for hardcore people, even though they were built for regular owners too? If your Jeep ever shocked you, I want to hear it below. And if you want more strange Jeep secrets, just hit that subscribe button. Thanks for hanging out. See you in the next one.